Hi, it's Jay and Nick. We're back from Chicago, the Joliet race called Doing Time In Joliet. Now, it was incredibly hot at this race. So hot, in fact, I have never seen this before. The ambulance had to leave its hood up while running so that it didn't boil over and explode. Few things were hella sweet at this race. There was a 560 SL brought by Knox Vegas Lowballers.
Oh, yeah.
That was incredibly sweet. There was a super incredibly cheaty Camero built by Genelosi at Rocket Sports. I mean, they didn't even try to hide anything. They got 1 billion penalty laps. And then after all that, they were like 25 seconds off the race pace, which was one of the most gratifying things that I have ever seen.
And then they blew up.
And then they blew up. And there was a fantastic Donald Trump themed dumpster. I meant to say Donald Trump themed duster, but that actually seems more appropriate.
So the other thing you do when it's real hot outside, if you have a turbocharged car, is turn up the boost as high as it'll go.
Always helps.
And that's what these guys did with their Subaru XT, which is an amazing car in general. And the crazy thing is it worked. This thing was going 160 miles an hour down the straightaway. Did it last? No, not really. But it was pretty amazing when it was running. Now, as you know, at the 24 Hours of LeMons, we don't do any kind of qualifying or special grading or any of that. Basically, we roll all the cars out and randomly throw the green flag when it's roughly close to the start of the race. But we decided, you know, we gotta do something that rewards the teams that have great cars, great themes, great costumes, great decorations. And so we came up with this idea called I Love Pole. And the way that it works is when you go through BS inspection, the judges look at your car and they say, oh yeah, now that's the kind of car we want to see at the front of the pack. And they give you a certificate, and at the beginning of the race, you show up and you get to start the race first. So if you've got a giant tow truck boom on the top of your car, you may actually lead for a lap.
I love pole.
I love pole.
I love pole.
I love me some pole.
Now, something else happened at this race that really had nothing to do with our race, but 2.5 miles away at the Route 66 Speedway, it was Demo Derby night. It is so spectacular, so infinitely better than anything we could ever do. They have fireworks. They have giant mounds of deep-fried potato chips covered in Cheez Whiz and bacon. They have thousands and thousands of juggalos. They have dudes crashing into each other. They had 2 cars catching on fire. They have figure-8 races. They have figure-8 truck races. Everybody in the entire parking lot, including children, they're all drinking beer. They had a guy who T-boned another guy, and they had to red flag the race briefly because his helmet shot off of his head and got wedged under a car. Best show ever. They had this fireworks thing that went off, caught another car on fire, and then that car was fireworks. They had to pull the guy's helmet out from under the car, they dusted it off a little bit, stuck it back on his head, and then they finished the race. It was absolutely amazing. In the middle of all of this carnage and the hearse going around with the zoomies shooting fire and all that kind of stuff, they had a watermelon eating contest going on, which was like 15 gigantic fat guys and like inexplicably 4 skinny little 8-year-old girls. They all had their hands tied behind their back. They had to eat half a watermelon, and the first one who could eat it and get it on top of his head was the winner. It was fantastic. In fact, it was so good, we actually had to bring that as a penalty for LeMons the next day.
I got screwed, went to Tudor Coupe Revival and their Nissan 300ZX. Now these poor kids, they did what a lot of people do. They went online, they Googled LeMons Cage, and they found a site that said, we sell LeMons approved cage kit. The important thing to know is there actually is no such thing as a LeMons approved cage kit. There are some companies that we like better than others, but you really need to take it upon yourself to make sure that the cage kit is up to spec and that will pass our inspection. These guys did not do that. The kit came, it was just a bunch of random tubes that didn't fit and weren't the right size, and so just as a word of warning, make sure you know our rules so you don't wind up going through what these guys went through.
The heroic fix was Bad Decisions Racing and their Dustbuster minivan. So way back when, they converted it from automatic to 5-speed because racing. Yeah, exactly. And that was involved, they had to build a whole new subframe and weld stuff up there, and you know, it was a huge deal. Well, of course, the 5-speed completely blew up, and their only alternative, they happened to still have the automatic in the trailer. So they had to undo all of that stuff, create a whole new subframe, weld that back up in there, and then they had a useless extra pedal. But they got the car running, and they finished the race.
So the special regional award was the Chicago Cubs of Motorsport Trophy, which, you know, is a reference to continued failure.
Yeah.
In fact, this, you know, Chicago Cubs have the, oh, maybe this year's our year thing. These guys had no such aspirations or chances because they brought in Eagle Vision. And so I believe it was an Eagle Vision TSI.
Yeah.
Which was, you know,
That's the line, yeah. That's the one that really handled.
Yeah, right. The GTR version.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So, as it turns out, Chicago and Eagles and cars already have a connection.
What's that?
Do you have insurance on this car?
No.
It must be Eagle Man.
I've got something for you.
Oh, look at those low rates.
So when we posted this on Friday Tech Day on social media, we got all of these people saying, oh, well, you know, those cars, the real weak point is the steering rack, or, you know, whatever you do, you know, don't turn the vents to high because that creates an electrical load. And we're thinking, it's going to be some totally unrelated thing. I mean, granted, it's going to fail horribly, but they drove it around like it was a grandma going to church. They go, don't press on the gas, that'll mess up the transmission. Don't turn left, the CV axles will blow out. And so they were driving along just eggshelling this thing around. And you know what? It kept running, and they had none of those failures that the internet said that they would. The maximum speed when using this technique was only good for 50th out of 80 cars. But congratulations, red-headed bastard stepchild, for your terrible, terrible Eagle Vision.
Organizer's choice went to Team Orca. They have a Caprice. It is totally awesome. When you step on the brake, the big tail goes up. It has a blowhole out the top. And the guys are really nice. They have run a lot of races. The car is remarkably fast. I love them.
And finally, the Index of Effluency was awarded to the Northern Shiners in their Oldsmobile Cutlass Brougham. And in the words of Judge Eric, they managed to complete the race without launching their radiator cap into low Earth orbit. Terrible car, 307, huge Midwestern rust holes everywhere. Just the kind of thing that we like to see on track.
Okay, here's LeMons in a nutshell.
Oh, don't max it out. 11's
too much.
So it'll tell you how fast you're going.
All-star lineup right here.
Just gets uglier every year, doesn't it?